unit where my wife Kim works as a registered nurse. He was abandoned by his birth mother, and through a series of rather divine circumstances, we were able to adopt Jake and bring him into our family. Jake was a premature baby, so developmentally he had some delays, but overall he was a rather healthy child and had a very bubbly personality and just a very happy kid. Shortly after his first birthday, he began to have seizures. These were apnea-related seizures where he would stop breathing for several minutes at a time. The seizures went on for about a year, and we weren't sure during that time if our son would live or if he would die. By the time the seizures were controlled, Jake had developed some severe mental and physical disabilities. Kim and I were devastated when Jake began to have the seizures. Here I was, a police officer with all the authority and power vested in me by the city. I was used to approaching problems to solve them. And Kim was a neonatal intensive care nurse with all the skills and health care abilities to care for the sickest of children. And here we found ourselves to be absolutely helpless in dealing with the illness of our own son. By the end of that year, we found ourselves depleted physically and mentally and, of course, spiritually. But apparently that was exactly what God had in store for us as He used that physical and mental and spiritual depletion to bring us to an end of ourselves and a place where we would have to depend on His strength instead of our own. Jake has been diagnosed with everything from cerebral palsy to autism. The overall diagnosis has been pervasive developmental disorder, non-otherwise specified, which is a fancy way of saying that we really are not sure what is wrong with your son. We may not fully know what is wrong with our son, but I think we have discovered what is right with him, and that is that God has used him as an incredible vessel of grace in our lives and in our family to bring us to God. My testimony in a sentence is that a severely developmentally disabled, nonverbal autistic child led me to Christ. Through Jake's illness and his disability and his near death, God brought us to a place of total desperation where we had nothing to offer Him, and yet He had everything to offer us. And by saying that, I don't mean that He offered us physical healing for our son. He didn't necessarily take away our trials or make life easier. As a matter of fact, when we came to Christ, life got harder. It got more difficult. But God took the burden of that suffering off of us. He carried that burden for us, and He opened our eyes to the bigger picture of what this suffering and this disability was really all about. And the bigger picture was this: that God brings us to the end of ourselves, to the end of our strength, to the end of our wits. He destroys our pride and our self-confidence in order to reveal to us His grace. Your circumstances don't define God's love for you. The cross defines His love for you. Your circumstances are merely used to point you towards that love, to bring you to a point of total desperation where you kneel at the cross and surrender all of your strength for all of His grace.